Before donning their armor, the samurai didn't simply sharpen their sword, they sharpened their spirit. And that preparation began not on the battlefield, but at the dining mat. It was not a feast. It was not indulgence. It was a moment suspended between life and death, between breath and silence. Amid the rising steam of rice and the faint scent of tea, every bite carried meaning, discipline, gratitude, and readiness for fate. They ate as if reciting a vow. I will not tremble, I will not fear, I am ready. This was more than nourishment. It was ritual, a sacred act of balance before the chaos of war, a reminder that before the clashing of blades, one must conquer the hunger of the soul. Before the sun rose over the misty valleys of medieval Japan, the samurai stirred from their tatami mats. The morning was cold, the air still, and the faint hum of cicadas the only sound. Before facing battle, a warrior's first ritual was not sharpening steel but cleansing the mind. They began by washing with cold water, allowing the shock to awaken both body and spirit. Some whispered prayers to their ancestors, or to Hachiman, the god of war, asking for clarity and calm. Silence reigned. Even among comrades, every gesture carried purpose. Every movement was slow and deliberate. The samurai's morning meal was as much meditation as sustenance. It was eaten kneeling, with the armor set neatly beside them, ready to be donned. Servants would bring a small tray of food, a bowl of rice, a cup of miso soup, a few pickled vegetables. The simplicity was intentional, nothing excessive, nothing distracting. To eat calmly before bloodshed required discipline, a form of seishin tanren, the training of spirit. No laughter, no chatter, only the rhythm of chopsticks and the distant crackle of fire. For the samurai, this silence was not emptiness, it was the sharpening of the inner blade. In this fragile peace before the storm, they learned to breathe with intention. The meal was not to fill the stomach, but to empty the heart of fear. In every grain of rice lay a whisper of mortality, a reminder that today one might not live to see another dawn. Rice, gohan, was the heart of the samurai meal. It was more than food. It was a symbol of gratitude, discipline, and the invisible bond between warrior and farmer. Each grain represented effort, the sweat of peasants who worked the flooded fields so that others might fight. Under Bushido, to respect rice was to respect life itself. To waste even a single grain was considered dishonorable. Before battle, samurai often ate white rice, sprinkled with sesame seeds, salt, or red beans. Red beans were thought to bring luck and drive away evil spirits, their crimson colour a charm against misfortune. The scent of steamed rice mingled with the smoke of pinewood fires, creating an atmosphere both sacred and serene. They would lift the bowl with both hands, bow slightly, and whisper a quiet, "Itadakimasu," I humbly receive. It was not a phrase of habit, but of humility. In that moment the warrior acknowledged his dependence on others, farmers, cooks, the earth itself. Even on campaign, when luxury was scarce, rice remained constant. Dried rice cakes and small balls of rice wrapped in leaves sustained them on the march. When eaten under falling arrows or in a rain-soaked field, the taste of rice reminded them of home, of peace waiting beyond the battle. For the samurai, rice was both armor and offering. It was the quiet promise that even in war one must never forget where strength and honor are born, from the soil and from gratitude. No samurai meal was complete without miso shiru, miso soup. Simple, steaming and fragrant, it was the quiet warmth before the cold fury of war. Made from fermented soybean paste, tofu, seaweed, and thin slices of radish or onion, miso soup was both comfort and strength. The fermented paste, rich in salt and protein, offered stamina for long hours in armor. But to the samurai it also symbolized balance, between earth and sea, warmth and steel, life and death. In the morning light, bowls of miso soup emitted gentle spirals of steam, curling like incense smoke. Each warrior cradled the bowl with both hands, feeling the heat seep into their palms, a fleeting moment of peace before the chaos. They drank in silence. No words were spoken, for conversation diluted focus. The act of drinking itself became meditation, each sip a reminder to remain grounded. The salt steadied the nerves, and the warmth softened the tension inside their chest. For some, it was said that the scent of miso alone could calm fear. The familiar flavour brought back memories of home, of mothers and wives who prepared the same broth with care. In that remembrance, even the most hardened fighter found a trace of humanity. To outsiders, it was just soup. To the samurai, it was a spiritual anchor, a reminder that warmth could exist even on the edge of blood and death. Before stepping into battle, the samurai often turned to dried fish, himono, or salted grilled fish, shioyaki. These were the flavors of resilience, the taste of endurance forged by necessity. Dried fish was light, durable, and easy to carry through mud, rain, and blood. It could be eaten quickly without fire, a small source of salt and strength when time and safety were scarce. Some samurai also carried strips of venison jerky or shaved dried bonito, katsuobushi, its smoky aroma filling the air when reheated over campfires. These foods had symbolic meaning beyond sustenance. The salt represented purification, a shield against corruption, both physical and spiritual. The preserved meat, touched by flame and smoke, reminded them that life itself was temporary and constantly transformed by struggle. While nobles might have feasted before victory parades, true warriors ate sparingly. Too much food dulled the senses, and hunger was seen as a companion of awareness. As they chewed the tough, salty flesh, their jaws worked slowly, rhythmically, as if sinking breath with resolve. Every bite grounded them in the present, reminding them of mortality. The flavor was harsh, yet pure. It was the taste of endurance, a warrior's communion with hardship itself. Even when far from home, holding a piece of smoked fish between calloused fingers, the samurai tasted not just nourishment but remembrance, the memory of the sea, of struggle, and of unbroken will. Every samurai meal sought harmony, not indulgence. Alongside rice and miso, pickled vegetables or tsukemono played an essential role. These colourful sides, pickled daikon radish, eggplant, cucumber, or ginger, were not meant for taste alone but for balance. In the warrior's diet, salt was a purifier and vinegar a cleanser. The sharp tang of pickles cut through the plainness of rice and fish, waking the senses without overwhelming them. To the samurai, this stimulation of flavour mirrored the awakening of the mind, alert, focused, yet restrained. Vegetables were seen as gifts from the soil, a symbol of stability and renewal. Even while preparing for destruction, they ate what came from the earth, grounding themselves in the cycle of life that war sought to disrupt. The textures mattered too, the crunch of radish, the softness of eggplant, the subtle burn of ginger, each sensation training awareness. Eating was not just about filling the stomach, it was a form of mindfulness. In samurai households, the act of serving pickles carried meaning. The small dishes reminded warriors to stay calm amid chaos. To lose temper at the table was a shame, to eat with composure was an art. In every bite of tsukemono lay a quiet lesson. Remain steady, even when surrounded by fire. The earth nourishes, the salt preserves, and through restraint one learns control, the first armor of the soul. When the moment came to leave camp and march toward battle, the samurai carried their most loyal companion, onigiri, the rice ball. Wrapped in dried seaweed or bamboo leaves, these compact rations were crafted for survival. They could be eaten while riding, hiding, or waiting in silence. Inside the rice, a single pickled plum, umeboshi, often rested at the center. Its sharp sourness preserved the food and revived the weary. Simple, durable, and symbolic, onigiri represented both practicality and care. Wives, mothers, or servants often prepared them at dawn, their hands shaping small triangles as if shaping prayers. To receive one was to be reminded that someone waited for the warrior's return. During long campaigns, onigiri became both sustenance and memory. A samurai might eat one under the shadow of an enemy fortress, the smell of salt and vinegar mixing with smoke and fear. The taste of home was enough to steady trembling hands. Unlike grand banquets, this meal fit in a palm, modest, efficient, but sacred. It embodied wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection and simplicity. Even amid the clash of spears the rice ball endured, a quiet fragment of peace carried into the heart of war. To eat onigiri was to remember humanity, to hold in one's hand not just food but the fragile connection between battle and life. Before stepping into the storm of battle, samurai turned to tea, matcha, finely powdered green tea whisked into froth. It was not merely a drink but a discipline, a way to enter stillness while facing chaos. The chanoyu, or tea ceremony, was practiced even in war camps. In a quiet tent, an officer might kneel on the mat, hands steady, eyes lowered. The whisk moved in slow circular motions, the steam rising like a prayer. Every movement of folding the cloth, turning the cup, was performed with precision. The caffeine kept them awake, but the ritual itself trained composure. The bitterness of the tea was symbolic, to taste life's bitterness without flinching. It reminded the samurai that fear, like flavour, could be observed but not obeyed. Tea connected warrior and monk. Many samurai studied Zen, where enlightenment could be found in the simplest act, even lifting a cup. Drinking tea before battle was to cleanse the spirit of hesitation. No toasts, no cheers, only silence and the sound of breathing. The warmth of the cup steadied the pulse. The deep green colour mirrored calm forests, a vision of serenity before the red of blood. For the samurai, tea was meditation, not comfort. It was the moment when the warrior looked into the cup and saw himself reflected, fleeting, focused, unafraid. Before major campaigns or duels, the samurai sometimes changed their routine. Some chose a simple bowl of rice porridge, okayu, the cleansing meal. Light, warm, and plain, it symbolized purification before facing death. Others fasted half a day, believing that an empty stomach sharpened the mind. Hunger, they said, heightened perception, a blade honed by discipline. Food was never indulgence, it was reflection. The simplicity of okayu, rice boiled to softness, flavoured with a pinch of salt, quieted the body so the spirit could rise. It was humility made edible. Before great battles, commanders performed small rituals, offerings of sake to ancestors, shared bowls of rice among officers, but these were not feasts. They were acts of remembrance, gestures that tied the living to the dead. To eat lightly was to reject fear of loss. To abstain was to assert control over one's desires, a victory before the first strike. The samurai's nourishment was spiritual as much as physical. By restraining the appetite, he affirmed his mastery over the body. In the stillness before the storm, a warm sip of porridge or a moment of fasting became an oath, not to survive, but to meet fate with a steady gaze. For them, discipline at the table was the first battle, and the only one they could truly win. The final meal before battle was not taken with laughter or wine. It was eaten in silence, a meditation disguised as nourishment. For the samurai, to eat mindfully was to train mastery over impulse. Before they gripped the sword, they first learned to hold the chopsticks without haste. Each motion, lifting, chewing, swallowing, was deliberate. The warrior focused not on flavour, but on breath. The rhythm of eating mirrored the rhythm of combat, calm, measured, unwavering. No emotion was allowed to surface. To smile or to tremble meant the spirit was still divided. Around the campfires, men sat cross-legged, each in his own private world, aware that this could be their last act of peace. The bowl before them was both offering and farewell. They ate with their heads slightly bowed, not to show fear, but to honour the life that would soon be risked. Between bites, some recited silent prayers to their ancestors, others simply listened to the sound of wind brushing through the pines. To outsiders, it looked like a quiet breakfast. But in truth, it was a ritual of surrender, not to the enemy, but to destiny. At that moment, they were no longer warriors of flesh, but vessels of will. In the simple act of eating, the samurai rehearsed death, and in doing so found clarity. The samurai did not eat to feel full, they ate to feel ready, clear in mind, balanced in body, and fearless in heart. Between the steam of rice and the scent of miso, they practiced acceptance, of hunger, of fear, of impermanence. Every grain of rice, every sip of tea was a whisper of gratitude, to the earth, to the farmer, to life itself. Bushido taught that the path of the warrior was the path of sincerity. Even the simplest meal could become an act of truth. To eat with humility was to live without illusion. Their food was not luxury, it was language. The rice spoke of labour, the pickles of patience, the soup of warmth, the tea of stillness. Together they formed a quiet symphony of resolve. And perhaps that is why the samurai faced battle with steady eyes and calm breath. They had already faced the greatest challenge, the self. In those brief sacred moments before steel met steel, they understood that honour was not forged in combat, but cultivated in silence, in the humble ritual of a meal. For the samurai, food was life, discipline, and farewell, all held in the same bowl.